it's me, Sean Capri. I'm glad you're here because you're listening to the most horse-powerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford, the man on the moose, and on our journey today, we've got some fuzzy-wuzzy controllers from Sonic the Hedgehog, so jump on into the Xbox Drive. Oh!
No power greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri. I'm glad, by the way, you almost said welcome to the Nintendo Drive.
Almost got to the Nintendo Drive. I can't even believe I got through that, my friend. I'm on a diet of water and Gatorade since Thursday. I'm a little woozy. I'm not gonna lie. That actually took some blood out of I got a rush of blood to the head, actually. A little Coldplay reference for you to start.
I shouldn't get you too excited, Sean, or else you're just going to fall over.
I'm in rough shape, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm feigning excitement. Well, not the excitement is there. I'm definitely the excitement is there, but I've just not been feeling very good, my friend. I shared a popsicle with my son, and that was a bad idea because he's just a bucket full of germs. So I've been, my gut has not been in good shape these last couple of days. So.
Yeah. I'm sorry, my friend. I know you've been posting about this on Twitter and the Discord, and I know everyone's been worried about you, but we're glad you're at least back on the show this week. I know the Nintendo Drive was delayed till tomorrow, so if folks are looking for that show, it'll be out tomorrow at some point. But I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad that at least you're feeling well enough where you're not just laying down the entire time. But
it's funny. People are asking me if I'm feeling better, and I'm like, well, it's easy to not have any of these issues pop up when I just don't eat anything. That's fine. That's just water and Gatorade and everything's fine. But yeah, feeling better is just a relative term. Friday, Saturday, real terrible. But we're here to podcast. We're here to talk. We're here for you to tell me all the things that have been happening in Xbox land over the last couple of days because I've been completely checked out, my friend.
Excellent. Well, I mean, worst case scenario, Sean, this will be a big ad for Gatorade and being fueled by electrolytes.
Yes.
we need to get the Schick Hydrobot out here or something like that too. To keep us hydrated from
nuts to McDonald's. We're giving up on the McDonald's sponsorship. I haven't even had coffee since Thursday, dude. I don't even know how that would go. So I'm just down to the basics.
Where is the caffeine? Where are you?
Seriously, I think maybe that was part of it. It was just withdrawal. No caffeine. Yeah.
Anyways, let's clean the garage a little bit. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. Of course, you can hit subscribe on the YouTubes or the podcast services, wherever you're checking us out. Of course, if you're also listening on podcast services, maybe leave us a nice rating or review if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, share with all your friends, comment on the video. Tell us what some of the things in Xbox you're excited about. Without further ado, Patreon. I almost forgot about Patreon, Sean. So, of course, if you want early access to this and all of our shows, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/YumiCapri. Throw a little tip in the old tip jar and out comes content. Look who's the rusty one over here. So let's grab our 8 tracks, pop them in. It's time for the playlist. And we're going to zoom through this section, Sean, because I know you haven't played anything, right?
I finished, not Xbox, but I did finish Horizon. So stay tuned to an upcoming episode of the PlayStation Drive. I'm going to be talking about that with our good friend Matt Sawinski very, very soon. And it's going to be an interesting chat, my friend. It's going to be very interesting. I think my takeaway from this, and I've said it to maybe a few people in text messages or whatever, is that it seems like it's a South Park kind of story. I don't know. Did I say that to you? I can't remember if that's what I.
No, I don't think so. This is the first time I'm hearing this.
It gets wild. It gets very wacky. I don't know if I'm here for it. I know a lot of people are. But yeah, there's going to be more to talk about on that front. I also fired up. Here's just more bashing PlayStation here on the Xbox Drive. Fired up Gran Turismo again last night, and this might just be me being sick. Maybe you don't want me reviewing your games when I'm feeling like this. Because I wasn't a huge fan of Horizon. I fired up Gran Turismo again yesterday. I'm like, this game is so plain and boring. And I'm like, I have Forza Horizon 5. I know it's not the same thing in terms of a racing sim. But I'm like, why don't I just play that? And I think that's what I'm going to do, man. I even looked up the trade-in values on Gran Turismo. I think I'm done with that game. I think that's it. Just
the love affair is over already.
I don't know. I just want it to be the music sucks. It's just, it's
a very vanilla game. And whenever I play Gran Turismo, I'm always listening to, music on Spotify or other podcasts. Yeah. It's very much been my podcast game ever since I got Gran Turismo, the code for it. So, I mean, I've been enjoying it, but I understand that comment and criticism, because that's always been a criticism for a lot of people's, and I definitely feel it when I play it too. It's a very vanilla game.
Yeah.
Because it's just it almost feels like it's sterile. But again, a lot of the stuff I love about Gran Turismo aren't even just the races, but the stuff outside the races, like the license tests and the missions that they included in this one and stuff like that. Like that's more what I'm into with Gran Turismo. Because again, it's not even traditional racing stuff I'm super into anyway. So I appreciate the criticism for that, even though again we're not trying to bash PlayStation too much. Again, we love to give PlayStation games a chance, but sometimes they don't always click with us.
Yeah, definitely not with. You know what? It might be just a bit of a slump as well that I might be in. But one slump that I'm not in, Ryan Turford, and you are with me on this. Another game that we are collectively playing all year long is Fantasy League Critic or Fantasy Critic League with the trophy room. Speaking of PlayStation, and my goodness gracious, like these guys have absolutely no chance. Our friends, Mr. Badbit, Mr. Kyle Stevenson over in the PlayStation, the trophy room over there. The beginning of the year, we did a fantasy league. We picked our games. They thought they were going to crush us, and we just got a nice little update today. One of our picks, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, sitting at somewhere like 84, 85. So that's great for us. We're going to get somewhere around like 14, 15 points out of this thing. But it's one of their counter picks, dude. This thing's going to be like a 30-point swing on top of the fact that we already had Elden Ring, on top of the fact that we already had Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, which did really well, and we had Triangle Strategy, which crushed it, obviously. Gran Turismo, which thank goodness for the reviews on that one, because if they reviewed it now, I feel like the reviews would be a little lower.
I was going to say, we're actually doing a Gran Turismo chat, me and Matt Sawinski, this week. Yeah. And you better believe we're going to be talking about
lots to talk about over there
that have happened. I'm glad we actually waited on that conversation.
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to happen like 2 weeks ago. But I'm glad we waited on that one, because now there's so much more to say about the state of the game nowadays and whether or not you should jump into it.
Like I said, I fired up the game and like it started with an apology. Like there's like a notice. Like
it was down for 30 hours. You couldn't play it.
Oh my goodness gracious. But that's a whole other thing. Trophy room guys, you're terrible at this game that you thought that you were just going to crush us with. And it's feeling good to be in the winner spot right now on that front.
Although again, we shouldn't get, too cocky about this, Sean, because I think that there's a lot of room for them to come back, later in the year, especially again, if, any of the 3 games that we counterpicked on them actually comes out, like because we counterpicked them on Forza and Hollow Knight,
Forza could be bad.
Order. but it's just one of those things where I think like if one of those come out, it'll just balance out Kirby and then we'll just kind of be back where we were.
I think so.
I'm very confident.
That's okay. I feel good with it. Whatever happens. But like if Forza comes out and crushes, I'm perfectly fine with that. They really, you know what though? They shouldn't feel good about counterpicking Kirby. Like there's just no way to feel good about counterpicking that game. There's no way it was going to be bad. Forza doesn't look like it was going to come out. So we had to counterpick something. So that's why we picked that one.
Well, not only that, but like, I think even if 2 of the 3 games come out, I still think we're going to be in good shape. Because again, we know River City Girls 2, which is the other game they counterpicked from us, is going to come out this year. And I'm still very confident that's going to hit between 80 and 85.
Yeah,
Metacritic,
they did a good job picking Dead Space. Dead Space they counterpicked. That one is delayed, which is whatever. But this is, when I haven't played anything, we're going to talk Fantasy League. And when we get these updates, we're going to talk Fantasy League. Because it's this is going to be happening all year long, man. We got a long ways to go.
We got to update this as we go along. And again, this is the perfect week to do it because, Sean, I didn't play any games this week. I played the real life moving game of moving, because my move is literally next week. It's next Tuesday. So it's less than a week away. Like half my living room is in boxes at the moment.
Wow.
And this will be the last time I actually record this show in this apartment, because the next time you see me on this show will be the day after my move. So I will actually be in my new place the next time we do the Xbox Drive.
I wish we could record it from like a U-Haul or something. Like you driving, all your stuff, you got everything packed up.
Yeah, it'd be the opposite of when, you used to be in the car, Sean. It'd be me in the car talking to you, essentially.
I know you don't drive, but can you drive? Like, do you have a license?
No, I don't have a driver's license.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of ironic then.
I mean, I've always lived in like urban areas where it almost is more of a pain to have a car versus not having one.
Totally makes sense.
So I've just never had a real reason.
It's very dangerous to drive, really, when you think about it.
Exactly. So there you go. That's what I'm doing. And again, I'll be in the same situation on next week's show too, where I'll have even less games to talk about next week. So
I'll make up for it. I'm going to get back to it.
But I'll be very excited, Sean, because when I finally move in, then it'll be time to play all the new games like Kirby and maybe finish
wanna
trying
get to
triangle
Tunic.
strategy, stuff like that.
I do want to get to Tunic for next week. That was regretful. That was, I don't know if we're going to, I don't know what we're talking about today, but
Yeah,
that came out.
I need to resubscribe to Game Pass at some point because I don't actually have Game Pass at the moment.
Oh my
so
gosh, we gotta
I
get you some
haven't actually played it yet.
codes. Holy crap.
But anyways, I'm slamming the brakes on this conversation because it's time for some breaking news. We got some interesting news this week. Again, nothing too big, but GDC is actually happening right now. And there's actually a YouTube video that actually went up this morning from Microsoft where Phil Spencer was actually doing like a sit down talk with Sarah Bond. And they went over a bunch of stats, a bunch of stuff that we're not going to get into. Obviously, we'll have a link for the full video, in the description if you want to go, watch the full video. But Benji-Sales actually pulled together a lot of cool stats about Game Pass that they talked about in the video. So we wanted to kind of discuss some of these here and kind of get a sense of how Game Pass is doing. So first off, subscribers pay 40% more for games after joining Game Pass.
They play. I think you said pay. They play more.
That's what I meant to say. So they play 40% more games after joining Game Pass. So people are playing more games if they join Game Pass.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Games on average see 8.3 times the number of players for that game. They refer to it as lift, and you'll actually hear me refer to that term a lot here. But 8.3 times the player base for certain games coming out is pretty incredible to hear for games on Game Pass. Day one launches on Game Pass for large publishers see a 3.5 times lift in players, while indies typically see about 15 times the number of players for their game that they would normally have if they didn't launch day one in Game Pass. And then subscribers spend about 50% more on different things. And this got actually broke down in an interesting way because subscribers actually bought about 60% more games after they subscribed to Game Pass versus non-Game Pass subscribers. And then a 40% increase for microtransactions, DLC, add-ons for the games that are actually in Game Pass, which is pretty cool. And then last little tidbit, indies see about triple-digit revenue growth on all their games if they actually launch on Game Pass, even the non-day one games as well. Because what ends up happening a lot of times, and they talked about this in the video, is that as the game gets closer to leaving Game Pass, and then they announce when the game's leaving, a lot of times people end up buying the game because it's on sale at that point.
I always wondered if people ended up doing that. Like I never do, but I whenever I comment on anything like this, like I never try to suggest that like what I do or what you do is representative even in any small way of like what everybody does. I love these looks because it really gets us out of our podcasting ecosphere or echo chamber really. And lets us know like what else is happening out there. There's far too often that we go like nobody does that. It's like just because you and your cousin doesn't do it doesn't mean that like that's not how the system is working. So I'm a big stats person. I love these numbers. I think it's super interesting. And hopefully, I mean, it's obviously coming from a certain perspective, so we're getting it in a certain way. But I love seeing this stuff about the indies, and it makes total sense that many more players are playing an indie game thanks to Game Pass than they would otherwise if it wasn't coming into Game Pass. Like that makes sense. So I just like to see that. Now I want to see it year over year. I want to see these same numbers like next year, fast forward into 2023. If we all make it, God willing, you know what I'm saying?
For sure. I mean, I would imagine they talk about this more at GDC next year, but
totally.
But yeah, I think that this puts into perspective everything they said to us about Game Pass, such as, why like games that enter Game Pass on Xbox somehow apparently make more money on Xbox versus games that don't, especially again with indie titles. Because as well, like you have to consider that not every person is subscribed to Game Pass every single month. Like
that's
sometimes they might
point.
dip in and out. So as a result, like if they're playing a game that they really like and they know that they're not going to finish it before their subscription expires, then they'll probably are more likely to buy the game.
Nice.
Before they leave. It kind of reminds me of like what if Netflix had like a buying model associated with it? So
they should.
You could, in theory, like if you were in the middle of binge watching a series, but you didn't want to continue your Netflix subscription to watch it, you could maybe in theory buy it from there. Like it's probably that's what I would maybe compare it to, or even like Amazon Prime actually has like a purchasing store. So I wonder if they have stats on that kind of buying behavior as well.
It's representative. I think they kind of had a similar look when Xbox Live was the only subscription service. Like when you're at a subscription level, when you're paying month over month, you are representing like the top tier of the customer base, really. So that it's really not surprising to see that they spend more. It's like they're not looking for a way out. They're looking for a way like to enhance actually. So yeah, that this makes sense to me a lot, and it helps them identify the gamers or the customers who are spending more. They're going to target us with like the best ads and figure out what we're playing, what appeals to us as a group. And it's all good stuff to me, man. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And not only that too, like I think that it's really awesome to see like indies on Xbox have like a really great platform for their games. Like I think Game Pass just naturally just helps any indie game. Even again, if it comes later, it sounds like from the stats, like even if it's not day one, people are playing those games. So
the thing is that it's not going to be like that for everyone. Right. Like and I don't think that's what these numbers are saying. Unfortunately, you just have to really look at it in an analytical kind of way. And most people don't, I don't think, but you will still hear that some games don't get this lift. Like this is on average, there's 15 times or whatever, but there's going to be some games that are left out in the cold, and you'll hear those stories come out to say, well, actually those numbers aren't true because my game didn't do blah, blah, blah. And it's like, both can be true actually, that you can have these games in a trending analysis go 15 times more, but some games like maybe didn't really help, or maybe it wasn't a winning solution for them. Both things can be true. So it's important to keep that in mind too, I think.
Well, yeah, this is all on average. So in theory, it could mean like indies, like day one indies being, 15 times the number of players. In theory, in some cases, it could be way higher than that for some games. And then likewise, there might be the cases you just described where it's lower than that. Like it's
I'm not buying any games. Exactly what I was just talking about before. Like I don't buy games when they're about to leave Game Pass. That's not me, but it is some people. So it feeds into the overall trends. So very cool, man.
You, as someone like you probably has like Game Pass until 2024 at this point.
I do.
You probably don't. You don't probably not thinking about leaving Game Pass. Whereas I've always been kind of more the month to month Game Pass person, especially like with stuff like Halo, which is the only game I really play multiplayer, and it's free on Xbox to play multiplayer for it. So like I'm not worried too much about not having Game Pass most of the time. So I usually have it for the months that I know that there's something I want to play, and usually the months that I don't, I'm not usually subscribed. So I'm kind of the in-between person that they're maybe trying to look to get with this type of stuff. So there you go. Anyways, let's move on because we got something silly to talk about. This set the internet ablaze yesterday. Yeah. Because, of course, there's a new Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming out pretty soon. And Xbox has partnered with Paramount Pictures to give away a Sonic 2 inspired Xbox Series S, which has a picture of Sonic and Knuckles on the front of it. And then they actually did the ring around the stereo speaker on the Series S. Yes, I call it the stereo speaker because I don't know what else to call it. As well, it comes with 2 limited custom, quote unquote, fur blue and red controllers to of course signify, Sonic and Knuckles. You can enter by going to Xbox's Twitter page and retweeting their promotional tweet with the hashtag Xbox Sonic 2 Sweepstakes. Again, we don't usually talk about contests and some of these limited edition consoles here, Sean, but this one's too silly and goofy for us not to at least talk about. So did you see the pictures of this? Like, what did you think about this?
I did. I want to touch them so bad. I just want to touch them. I want to, they look so fuzzy. I wish that they were selling more of these. It's one of those, and many of these limited edition things for giveaways are this case. They're just making, was it just one? Like there's only one to be won here too.
There's only one to be won.
Oh my goodness gracious. People have got to get their hands on this. Like, and I love that you called out the ring too around the speaker grill or whatever. Cause that looks great, man. It's also black. It's also worth calling out. The rest of the Series S is black, where of course we know it as a white console. So very, very lovely design. Kind of tacky. Like I will say, like it's it's a skin that they've put on here. But yeah, no, the controllers are what you really want out of this, I think.
Yeah. Also, again, I actually like the look of the Series S in black. So maybe they give us the black
little hint. Series might be a little hint of that coming up.
Yeah. I mean, this it's weird with stuff like that because I always love the custom designs that Xbox does for a lot of these contests. But the reason, again, we don't usually talk about them is they usually make one of them and only one person can win them. And it makes me sad every time that we see that because you can't go buy them. Like I think the one case where they actually made like a promotional item that you could go buy was the Space Jam controllers that we got. Like those ones they actually did sell. But other than that, like a lot of these promotional stuff that's tied to movies, like they don't usually sell this stuff. And I would love to see them embrace that more and maybe sell even if they didn't sell the console, like selling the controllers, I think would be really cool. Even though again, like, I don't know how comfortable it's going to be to hold those, fur controllers over time. Yeah. Like get sweat all over them or like they'll be hot.
Be warm. Yeah.
Or they'll be hotter to hold because, they're made of fur, but or you'll just get the fur all over your hands.
I don't know if the texture would be good to grab onto. I don't know.
Yeah. You'll end up having like Sonic fur hands when you're done. So like your hand will be covered in like blue or red fur from the controller. So yeah. I would love to see some pictures from whoever ends up winning this though get posted because I would love to see more than just the promotional stuff they got going on it. But yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty cool story. But next up, it's time to talk about some release dates. And Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League was reported to have been delayed like months and months and months ago. But we finally got the official announcement this morning that it's officially been delayed until spring of 2023, which makes perfect sense because we talked about it when Gotham Knights got that release date announcement. Like, you're not going to have two, Batman-related games in the same fall. It just doesn't make any sense for them to do it that way.
Not needed.
Yeah. So I think this is perfect timing. Again, spring 2023 is a good window for this too as well. Just obviously don't release this at the same time as, everything else in February, let's say, of 2023. But yeah, I'm excited about this game. And I guess we'll see it next year. But there you go. Next up, and this one blew Garrett's mind yesterday because we ended up having a conversation about this on the RPG Cave this week. But CD Projekt Red have announced a new Witcher game is in development that will be the beginning of a quote unquote new saga. It will be developed on Unreal Engine 5 rather than the Red engine, which was basically used to power all of their other games. So Cyberpunk, Witcher 3, and so on and so forth. And they will actually be using Unreal Engine 5 for all of their future games going forward. Sean, what do you think about this? First of all, it sounds like it'll be ready when it's ready. But what do you think about The Witcher getting a new game at this point?
I feel like this falls just in the category of like, duh, like no kidding. I feel like there's been a couple of announcements of like Grand Theft Auto 6 is in development. It's like, no shit. Like, obviously. I think probably the more interesting parts of this is, as you mentioned, Unreal Engine 5 is going to be the foundation of this game. And it makes sense to me in just the way of their engine that they've been using has been totally fine, at least in the way of Witcher. Obviously, it was a bit of a mess with Cyberpunk, but I don't know how well it would translate or scale to like truly next gen. And from an independent standpoint, why wouldn't you go to the engine that has already kind of done that leap? They don't have to redevelop something. So I wonder if this might be a bit of a transition for them. And maybe develop another version of the Red engine for next gen, but they may have maybe reached the limits of current technology and we'll be using this. I mean, Unreal is just such a powerful engine and there's so many awesome games on this. It's definitely not a slam dunk though. I think I saw Jez Corden talking about some games that had made the change from either proprietary engines or something to Unreal and actually it's turned out worse for them. But we definitely look to things like what BioWare has done. They've been shoehorning games into the Frostbite engine, going like, really, like just use Unreal. So for the most part, I think Unreal is going to be a good move for them, but obviously not. It's not a slam dunk, and it's also going to be very new for them. I think too, to be learning about this. If all their games have been using a different one, jumping to Unreal, most other developers are probably pretty familiar with that. So it'll be interesting. And the last thing I'll say on it is just, to hear them talking about anything new at this stage, which is everything that's going around in the area, I don't know how that's impacting Poland right now. I don't know how Russia, Ukraine is impacting Poland right now, but I got to imagine that it's pretty dicey, So, thoughts and prayers to all the developers around there. Hopefully they can still stay focused. But what a rough ride it's been. A lot of transition for the team over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And combined with the fact that we know CD Projekt Red still has a lot on their plate with, all the stuff they're adding to Cyberpunk still, the fact that the Witcher 3, Series X version is still supposed to come out at the end of the year. Like they're working on a lot of stuff at the moment. That's why I'm like, I don't know why they make this announcement.
Seemed
now.
unnecessary. Yes,
because
totally
like
did.
This is probably like a 2026, 2027 game. Like Garrett and I were again like on the RPG Cave this week. We were, making our best guess as to when this game comes out. And I'm like, this is probably a game that comes out at the end of the Xbox Series X lifespan.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the generation that's when this game comes out. Because you have to remember when they announced, and they did this, with Cyberpunk because I don't know if you remember, Sean, but Cyberpunk 2077, they announced that in 2012. And that came out, a year and a half ago. So it's it almost took them 10 years from announcement to release date. And I'm sensing something similar maybe happening here with this one. But I think them switching engines again is like a direct, correlation with what happened with Cyberpunk, where maybe they feel like if they try and go any further with this engine, it might just break things in ways that they're not expecting, which I think relying on a more like a third party engine might actually help benefit them in this situation.
I think we just saw the limits of it. Honestly, I think we just saw like even the graphical elements of it. Just like I think they want to push further, which we want to see this team do. And I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but somebody made it really clear of like why some projects are announced so damn early, and it is on the recruitment side. Like, come join us. We are making this game. And also, how are you supposed to bulk up your team and try to get people to join for a game that they can't talk about that they're making? Like, that actually makes things quite a bit easier for me to understand. Why would you talk about a game so early? It's like, well, they're going to be hiring new people for it. So word could get out. You might as well just say we're working on it. So let's just get past it. Well, that actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually really reminds me of the Splinter Cell announcement we got from Ubisoft last year, where it was, hey, we're developing a new Splinter Cell game. Please be excited about it. By the way, click here because we're looking for people to help develop this game in Toronto. Or Perfect Dark, to be honest with you. We talked about that last week, I think. My brain is just totally destroyed. Yeah, like that's why they announced that so early. Like they were still bringing people onto the initiative, and obviously they were hyper aware of the status around all that. So I think it's good to at least talk about, because we demonize this quite a lot. Don't tell us about the game so early. It's like, well, there's probably a good reason for it. It's probably, and I have to imagine in these cases where these $100 million games are being made, that it's not just because somebody felt like it. Yeah. It's probably a little bit more involved than that. Or someone smarter than us probably sat in the room and was like, this is actually the best time to make this announcement for X, Y, and Z reasons. Yeah, it's probably at least a reason or two. Totally. Yeah. And this also coincided with, again, them announcing a partnership with Epic for the use of Unreal Engine for the rest of their games. Like that was a big part of the post that they had for the rest of their games. Oh, I didn't say, okay, everything going forward from CD Projekt Red will be Unreal Engine 5. That's quite the commitment. Yeah. They put a ring on it. Holy crap. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they didn't give an end of, I imagine there's probably, like maybe it's like a 10-year contract, but they just didn't say in the post. So I can't wait to see Unreal Engine 5 stuff coming out. Like we saw the tech demo with PlayStation and everything else. Like it just, this is the one, man. This is the one that when games start to push this out, then we really start to see what these consoles are capable of. And we'll look at the first year and a half of games that have come out on Series X, kind of cutesy. Kind of like when we look at some of the first couple games that came out on Xbox One. Like, really, that's what we were excited about? Yeah. We were excited about playing Call of Duty Ghosts in 940p, Sean. I was going to say Rise, but I actually think Rise Son of Rome stands up pretty well. I was going to say, that's one of the prettier games. I think graphically it does, but yeah, that's basically it. I was going to say, because go back and play Dead Rising 3, Sean. That game's real ugly. That's a better example. Yeah. That game was fun, but man, that game does not look pretty today. Yeah, that's a launch window kind of thing. Yeah. And actually, do you remember when they were showing that game off at E3 when they first announced Dead Rising 3, and their whole gimmick with that game wasn't to show you the gameplay, but it was to show you that you can control the game using your mobile phone, and how like you could call in like airstrikes and stuff like that on zombies using your phone. I was just like, what are you guys doing with this? And I did want smart glass to be a thing though. Like I really, especially for things like with Madden, anything like the Wii U was fun. I liked having the Wii U. I liked having a map just like down there the whole time if I wanted to. Second screen experience could have been cool, but we killed it because we're a bunch of judgy, whiny gamers. But what else is new? Exactly. That's the consistent. All right. And then last news story real quick. Hogwarts Legacy will officially launch holiday 2022. We didn't have an exact release date for it, but we got one during the PlayStation State of Play for Hogwarts Legacy.
I just don't have anything to say about this though, because I personally don't care about Harry Potter.
Why do we have it in the show then?
Well, I didn't know how you felt about
no, I don't really
Harry
care.
Potter, Sean.
That looks cool, but no, I'm kind of with you.
Cool.
We'll see when it comes out.
We'll move on then. Let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It's time for the carpool. So let's start with Hopple on Discord, who asked us the question: do you think we will get the first DLC for Forza Horizon during E3 week in June? Again, he puts it in quotations because we don't know if it's actually happening or not.
Mm-hmm.
I did fall off playing Horizon after some weeks. A new area would be nice. So yeah, actually it's weird that we haven't heard about Horizon DLC yet, because we normally would have heard about it by now. Mm-hmm. But Sean, what do you think about this question?
Crush Gran Turismo. We need some life in Forza Horizon right now. It can distract from the Halo situation. This would actually cure a lot of problems right now. It would be a big win. It's interesting because Mario Kart just got some DLC as well, got some nice tracks over there. I'm going to be talking about that on the Nintendo Drive, but I need more. Like I'm already like I need more of those. I need more of those tracks. Although I'll be probably playing Kirby in a moment. But yeah, I don't know. I actually want this sooner than E3. To be honest with you, I think that I don't know. There's too much of a gap, and I'm kind of looking for E3 to be bigger than that, if that makes sense. But all of that aside, all my preferences aside, this is probably a very realistic kind of prediction. And I think it's happened before. I think that's when we got the Lego one from Forza Horizon 4. Was it E3 in 2019?
Yeah, that was an E3 one, yeah.
Yeah. So probably a very, very safe bet. But yeah, personally, my preference would be like now. That would be great. And, you know, including Game Pass, we need something over here. We're kind of dying over here in Xbox
Well,
land.
especially like, again, like usually the Forza Horizon games usually have 2 expansions.
Yeah.
And then they both usually release the same year, like one usually earlier in the year and one later in the year.
Yep.
So
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Something to happen.
I imagine
May
they
5th.
do something cool. And like the one will probably be, again, like a more of what you're referring to, where it's like specific to Mexico in particular. And then the other one will probably be another partnership, because they did the Hot Wheels one.
Yeah.
They did the Lego one for the last 2 games. Like maybe they do Micro Machines or something like that this time. Or,
Can you imagine they jump
else.
to Micro Machines? That'd be incredible.
That would be pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely think, Hopple, to your point, we'll see it soon. But I think to your point, Sean, I think we got to hear about this before E3.
Yeah,
I hope so
agree.
anyways.
Yeah, I hope
It'll
so.
probably just show up in a tweet one day, I'm guessing.
I know, right?
That's just my thought process. But next up, Mike at BlazeKnight0923 asked the question. First off, how are you feeling, Sean? Sean already answered that. But second, do you recommend having a so-called palate cleanser game between large games, or do you think it is best to jump into another huge game? So, Mike, for me personally, it just depends on the game that I just finished and whether or not I feel like I need a palate cleanser. If, for example, like let's say I just finished a big open world Ubisoft game and I'm looking to maybe play it, like, and the next big game is like a big open world game as well, then I definitely find that I personally need a palate cleanser game, like a shorter linear experience to, you know, reinvigorate me before, you know, jumping into that. Because otherwise I'm the type of person who burns out on open world games very quickly if I'm playing a bunch of them back to back.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm alone in this, because I know some people who just love open world games if that's all they play. But for me, I get sick of open world games if I play them too much.
Yeah.
So for me, I really need something. But luckily, I play a lot of retro games, and retro games do a great job of filling in the void between, you know, big game releases. But Sean, what do you think about this?
I think this is really important, actually, and it's becoming more important for me, I think, as time goes on, as maybe I'm getting a little bit older and all these, you know, varying responsibilities and all these things kind of happen. I have to be honest with you, Ryan, like I have been feeling the February craziness in a way that it's actually usually saved for holidays, where you kind of just have this big rush of games and you're trying to get to everything. And I've been really trying to be mindful of this over the last, I don't know, a couple of years, really. And I let it get to me, unfortunately. Like and I think it might be coming through in my experience with Horizon. It's very possible, and I'll be clear about that when I talk about that with Matt. But yeah, I think being mindful of, are we just playing games just to play games, or are we like, what are we doing? You know, this has been, I've had a lot of time to think, because I've been very sick and just very immobile. But this has been on my mind quite a lot lately. So whether it's a palate cleanser, which is a game, I think that's an absolute no-brainer for me. I thought that was going to be Gran Turismo. I thought that was going to be a really nice way to actually come off of Horizon, which was a little bit more detailed. I thought I could just go race some cars around and do that sort of thing, and just the game wasn't really capturing me. But even in addition to that, I actually think like palate cleansers could be like going for a walk or watching a movie or catching up on some other things. Or I think that's mentally, like that's where my mindset is right now, is I think maybe I need a palate cleanser that isn't a game, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, actually, I mean, like especially with a lot of my other hobbies, like, you know, watching anime or doing anything else I do, like it's very much like those are also work as power cleansers as well. And even just taking a break from games every once in a while is totally cool too.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely need it because it's too much. If it feels like a chore, and sometimes it can, especially if you're like, I got to talk about something for the show, I got to have something like that. That it's a dumb thing to have weighing on you, to wear on your shoulders. So to shed that, I actually like feel it like mentally and physically even too. So yeah. Palate cleansers are it's so important, and it's even more than just games. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
All right. And the last question comes to us from Brian Eck over on YouTube. And he asks, questions for the both of you. Have you ever been to a gaming expo, event, or convention? How was your experience, and would you go again? Also, what are your thoughts about E3 rumored to be a digital-only event this year? So as far as gaming-only conventions, I haven't really been to any of those. I mean, we've been to Fan Expo together. Sean and I actually went, and I've been many times in the past, and gaming is part of it, but it's never like a huge focus or anything like that.
Right. It's like a Comic-Con, like a Geek Con kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't really been to anything like that because I haven't been to E3 or anything like that either. But I will say, before I turn it over to you, Sean, like I've been to like gaming events as part of the press for a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like because I lived in Toronto and there were a lot of events there. Like the one that I will always remember was like one of my first events that I ever went to, where Nintendo invited us to play all of the Nintendo Switch launch titles, all 30 of them, before the Switch came out. So they actually had this set in the convention center in Toronto, and we got to go play the entire Switch library. So that was amazing. And then shortly after that, there was an Injustice 2 event where I got to meet Ed Boon and we got to interview him.
Oh,
and
that's the best.
I got a signed copy of Injustice 2 from Ed. So that was a really cool and memorable event. But yeah, like I've always really enjoyed going to press events because usually we get to talk to developers and get to go visit studios, especially going to Ubisoft Toronto. I've been there a bunch of times for events, and getting to meet like the people behind the scenes at Ubisoft has been like such a super cool experience. So I love gaming events for that type of thing, but I haven't really been to traditional events outside of that. So Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I'd love to go to like a PAX or something like that. I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting in that kind of realm. But yeah, I've never been to anything like that. Of course, Fan Expo, been there with you, but very, very lucky to have been invited to FanFest and E3 with Luke Lore, previous host of the Xbox Drive, now host of XEP. And we got to go to E3 back in 2019, and that was like kind of game changing, man. Like it was something I feel like I want you to experience, right? I think a lot of people have that as a kind of like a bucket list kind of thing. It was awesome. But it was so special really because of FanFest, like, which it wasn't just limited to us, obviously. Like FanFest is a fan thing. It's a celebration of Xbox fans. And that was actually kind of the best part about it, because when you're at E3 as part of FanFest, you get like the best seats. Like they reserved like the front part for you. The guy who yelled, "You're breathtaking," was part of FanFest. We were hanging out with him like maybe an hour before that. So yeah, like we were there at the "You're breathtaking" moment. I had a bit of a faint kind of moment when I saw Keanu Reeves, just like he kind of kneeled down, like, "Wake up, Samurai, I got a city to burn." I was like, that's freaking Keanu Reeves. Like I was there, and then he shows up. Like I was losing my mind, and that's what I want people to think about. Like there's a lot of garbage and a lot of negativity when talking about these live events, like, oh, they're just tired and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you guys, like, then just don't go. Okay. Like if you're not interested, don't go, because there's thousands of other people who would be stoked to go. And I think GDC is a wait, not GDC. Gamescom is actually what I'm thinking about. Just a massive example of people want to go to these things because they are awesome. And if, you've been to one, maybe you go to two and you might be tired of it, then step aside and let somebody else go to it, because these are days and experiences that I will never forget. I got to sit in that Lego car, so I was able to remember that 2019 E3, we got the Lego expansion for Forza Horizon 4. Like just some of the coolest experiences. We played Tunic right after they created the stamina meter. It's like that game was so far from being done back then. We got to play Escape. that multiplayer mode of Gears 5 way before that game was ever coming out on a Elite Series 2 controller, way before that thing ever came out. Like, the experiences were incredible. And I think more people should have an opportunity to do that, whether they're part of the press or part of the fans. I want more of that. I don't know if I've missed any part of the question. My thoughts on it being digital this year, I think, is a bummer. I think the narrative around E3 sucks, and I would love for it to turn around. And again, if you're not interested in going, stay home, watch it on YouTube, because that's still a fun experience too. But there's lots of people who would like to be there, my friend.
Yeah, I think like next year we can look at it probably coming back. Whereas this year, I think everything turned around too slowly for them to kind of plan out the event this year. So I think next year, if E3, digital that actually does happen this year, I could see them doing a physical event next year, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got to get going, Sean. But before we go, Sean Plug Scott.
I just have one more thing to say on this. And people ask about, like, why would somebody like pay at E3? They could do it on their own. It's a chance to activate and engage with your fans. That's it. It's a way that is unique to E3, that you can have people like step up to your booth. I got to play Nintendo games before anybody else. Like, and it's not even just because of who I was there with. Creating these spaces for fans and gamers to like go touch your games, dude, you want to be part of that. I don't want it to die. You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch. You can yell at me if you think I'm dumb at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. I'm running on chips and Gatorade and water. That's it for me, my friend.
You're fueled by electrolytes. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can find us on Twitter at Yumi Caprice, on YouTube at youtube.com/Yumi Capri, and on podcast services around the globe. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 232 of the Xbox Drive. Yes, that's a palindrome. And we out.
Palindromes rule and germs drool. The Xbox Drive is fueled by patrons at patreon.com/Yumi Capri. And from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to the more than 70 patrons who support us each and every month, with a special thanks to our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. You can join me and the rest of the Phoenix Overdrive team at extra-life.org and raise money for the kids. And Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on this show and the Nintendo Drive. You can download his latest album, In My Element, on Spotify and Apple Music. Our platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, and all of our gold members, Argo, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, Tony Baker, and Xavier Reyes. If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/Yumi Capri and choose the tier that works for you.